So what exactly are transformers and how do they work? When people hear transformers, many probably first think of the science fiction movie series by Michael Bay. But in the field of artificial intelligence, the term refers to a currently very popular architecture for machine learning. For example, natural language processing, short NLP, training image processing models like computer vision, and also analyzing time series data. For language processing, transformers are currently the workhorse behind all the major so-called large language models. One of the most famous being ChatGPT. GPT actually stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Compared to earlier techniques like recurrent neural networks and long short-term memory cells, transformers show better performance in many tasks, particularly when it comes to processing and generating long texts. At first glance, the transformer architecture looks super complex, but at its core it's made up of just 5 components. So first of all, tokenization, embeddings, positional encoding, the transformer blocks, which give the architecture its name, and then lastly the softmax. So let's say we want to train our transformer model to write stories. The model then processes this input and generates with each iteration only the next word, which is the most likely to follow our input. For example, write a story and then the word once. And the newly generated word then becomes part of the input, and the model generates the next word. This iterative process, also autoregressive generation called, continues then until the most likely output is no longer a word, but a stop sequence. This stop sequence signals that the model considers the story to be complete. The model doesn't process language in whole sentences, but actually breaks down those into tokens. And tokens represent individual text components and punctuation marks. This process of breaking text into smaller components is called tokenization and is the first step of the transformer architecture. However, transformer models process data in the form of numbers. So the generated tokens need to be converted into mathematical representation, and this embedding of tokens into a vector representation is called embedding, where each word is encoded as a sequence of numbers of a specific length, so-called vectors. But this is not done randomly, but in a way that preserves the semantic meaning of words. In other words, the distance between vectors of semantically similar words is small, while semantically unrelated words are far apart. For example, let's take the words man, woman, king, and queen, and these words have certain relationships to one another, which are ideally preserved in our embeddings. A possible structure for our embeddings or vector representation might include dimensions like human, gender, and royalty. And the embedded words king, queen would then lie close together because they are both humans and royals. Similarly, man and woman would also be close, but man and queen would be farther apart as they only share the human dimension. But you could also embed any other word which is represented as tokens, as embeddings usually span hundreds of dimensions to capture a wide variety of words while preserving their semantic relationships.